Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. I just finished another interview on the Higher Side Chat, which led to the Ground Zero interview, and we wanted to do a follow-up with all that's happened. But in the course of our interview, we talked about a lot of things that I think might help people that are looking at the lunar wave footage that just happened to come in um, on the clip where I basically stated for the first time that the moon is an illusion, it's not a rock in orbit. And to see that for the first time with no context about the work that I've done here, it's easy to understand how that's hard to accept or even consider. But what I wanted to do is just go at this in a little different way. In the interview on Higher Side Chats, we started to talk about systems of control, and that's very pertinent to the lunar wave. If you are a person that doesn't understand what's been going on with the people who are supposed to protect and govern us in terms of false flag attacks and falsified news, basically most of the news is falsified at this point, there's going to be no level of communication we can reach here, and you might as well just go ahead and shut off this clip and maybe go find something else, because everything I'm going to say here is going to sound alien and contrived. Having said that, if you consider events like Sandy Hook and so many of the other things that we see, the moon landing, that have been just flat out shown to be staged events by the people that are supposed to be protecting and governing us, you see a system of control in place. You see an agenda being enacted more overtly every day. This has a lot to do with why I came out and said what I did about the lunar wave at the time I did it. It is my belief that the systems of control and the deceptions that you're seeing across this globe right now don't end at any particular border or country. When you're looking up, you are still seeing residue of the deception. And to draw that to the lunar wave, that's exactly what I believe you are looking at. When I first said this the other night, I knew I would be sticking my hand in the flame, but I've come to a point where it feels like we're all standing in boiling water, and the people who run this planet have become basically rabid wild jackals, and they have no interest in governing or doing anything to help the population as a whole. As a matter of fact, they're doing the opposite. They're marginalizing and harming and destroying economies, and the list goes on. If you're a person that understands that our space agency lied about sending people to the moon, take that a step further and consider, why would you even bother to do something like that? Well, what they were doing is implanting an image in your mind, which is everything you've been shown about space is just a reiteration of this. It's images in your mind that have drawn a picture that leads people to believe that what NASA has shown you of space is what space is. And I have come to know for a fact that what we have been told is not the correct picture. And I view all this as part of systems of control to deny us the understanding of the world we live in, and to put it, to go at it in a different way. When you're in school, what you're being taught is how to survive in the system we live in. But you are being told nothing about the system we live in. And there are those people who are fortunate enough to have been pulled into Skull and Bones, or whatever that college's name that looks like Hogwarts in England is, and Harvard, and you're the right family, the right bloodline. You are actually not just shown how to operate within this system, but you are shown how the system works. The rest of us are the odd man and odd woman out. Now, when you look at the lunar wave, what you are seeing is a deception. The problem with exposing the lunar wave is that what I can show you is not everything I know. And for me to make claims that I can't substantiate becomes problematic for those who would like to argue the point on the other side. I've seen many things that were not caught on video. As an example of this, the boomerang footage, the good boomerang footage, I know for a fact there are fleets of those objects. We saw them one night with an eyepiece, which is a hell of a lot better view than you will ever get with a DSLR filming HD video. With an eyepiece, you get a very crisp, clear, well-magnified image. What we saw that night was an endless line of these things, and then it culminated in a formation of them. For me to talk about that is one thing, but I don't have that on video because I could not yet record. That is what spurred me on to be able to record through my telescope, and I was fortunate enough to catch that boomerang later. And the reaction from some people is, oh, that's 3 balloons in our atmosphere, when in fact, what we saw that night is what started the Crow 777 channel, basically. I began to film. When you look at the lunar wave, I would urge you to go into the Russian research and look around and see what has been said. And I will also emphatically say, I do not have any way to vet so much of what's said there because that man held secret government positions. That man's research was forced out of his hands over to Israel with an oil company involved. And on his bio, it stated flat out that they are not allowed to name a number of the places he worked. So there's no way we'll ever probably be able to vet some of the things there. But we can know for a fact that I was sent an email of people in a Russian-style Facebook talking about a lunar hologram that spoke Russian and seemingly had never heard of me, referenced Hattie Bow, went over there. I had been saying from the beginning that this happened near a full moon. Hattie Bow's research dialed it in with scientific equations saying this happens at the 3rd quarter. Those two things jive. I had been saying from the beginning that the equinoxes played into this somehow. Hattie Bow goes at length about why the equinoxes are so important. So while that is why I think the Hattie Bow research is so important, there is much of it that I will hold in my mind and neither accept nor reject until I have some way to put a frame of reference on these things, and that day may never come. But I feel that what the man has done is critically important, even though I may not ever understand much of it. Having said this, we've been told that the moon is a rock in orbit around our heads. And when you look at this wave footage and you see that it's been here for 2.5 years now, vetted by thousands of people from all walks of life, scientists, professionals, just everybody has been in to look at this. It's never been debunked and it's not going to be. It is what it is. And having said that, I have seen things and come to know things that I can't put on video. Even the simple act of Croet and I sitting down to look at the moon, there is a sense of what we are seeing that changes, that is not translatable to video. But we say to each other, when we look at the moon on nights, we know what we are looking at. So I would just urge you that when you see the lunar wave footage, look at what's been done here. Understand that it was a catch that has not been debunked in 2.5 years, and I don't believe it will ever be debunked. The atmosphere, the gravity waves, the bow waves, these things have all been gone at and dismissed in the same way that the 5 ways we're told the moon came to exist by NASA have been dismissed. The last theory having been put forward in 2010, demonstrating that the previous 4 are false, and that 2010 theory having just as many problems as the one that preceded it. The moon is not what we have been told it is, and it is just another part of the systems of deception that we see down here. And I know that's a lot to hear, but I'm sorry, I can't back off that. It's what I know to be true. So anyhow, we had a hell of an interview on the Higher Side Chat. I hope you'll check out Greg Carlwood. He is bar none the best viewer I've ever had. He runs an incredible show over there. Okay, so the clip you just saw is the first of my 5 captures. It was captured in the fall, just after the fall equinox of 2012. The one you're viewing now is the next one in the order of capture. There are 3 more after this, and bringing my wave captures total to 5. Now, as with the Russian research, and people ask me, why did I think it was so important? Well, here's one of the demonstrations of why. The 2012 footage was just a few days after the fall equinox. All the rest of these captures happened right before the spring equinox of the spring equinox of 2014. There's even one in this that was filmed in the middle of an eclipse. It's the most subtle capture possibly. But again, you know, these are, in my opinion, beyond coincidence. I don't really buy into coincidence, but having said that, this is really reading that by a man who is so heavily endowed in the scientific fields in Russia, writing about this and having these things line up, the third phase of the moon when I'm saying near full, having the equinox thing be totally explained out when I understand exactly what he's talking about, but I didn't really have a way to demonstrate how I knew the equinox was important in this. And this really begins to underscore the importance of the portions of the Russian work that lined up so closely with mine that I listed it and put it out to the public. And just to beat the dead horse a little more, he says a lot of things that I will never be able to vet in my lifetime, I am sure, but I think there are probably very important things to keep in your mind. And maybe we'll get lucky and something will happen where we can draw a parallel back and say, wow, wait a minute, is this what Hattie Bao was, talking about? So I just want to be very clear. Those 3 or 4 direct correlations, even by name from the people in the chat room that said lunar wave, are why I associated that. I didn't make it the validation of my work. I used it to say this is exactly what I had come to know, and this research here lines up perfectly in these spots, in the areas that I am able to draw the parallel. And there is much, much, much more Hattie Bao work that is available to people, but it is just, it's tough going to take it out of a language like Russian and deal with the scientific aspects of it and try to make heads or tail of it. It can be done, but you really have to work at it, and even after all that, you're going to be left wondering quite a bit. And it says some pretty crazy things. The 3 genotypes of all people on the planet, how he thinks and when he thinks the moon was put here. Again, I can't vet these. I don't know that I will ever be able to vet them. So, in closing here, we're going to take one more look at the 2012 footage that tens of thousands of people have viewed, and an endless line of very smart individuals have tried to debunk or tried to understand, and it has not happened. What we now know is we are looking at an event that is local to the moon. That is a proven thing. It does not cross the video frame, and there it is. What you are looking at is happening on what we see as the moon, and it's, every time I look at it, it's staggering. It really is a staggering thing to see. So I'm going to just run filters and let you see the energy pulse, which was so important to the people who wanted to study this and look at it. In the lower left, you're going to see the energy pulse sweep right as the wave is starting at the bottom, and you can see that's a curved line as if to be going around a sphere. You're going to see a lateral pulse right after this energy that goes from left to right. There's the sweep right there. And all this is going on as the energy wave starts on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and just be quiet now and let the last views of the 2012 footage, the best we have by far, run out, and you can check it out. So there it is. This is all about systems of control. I have no doubt in my mind. And I hope people will consider what I have been saying here, because I think it's very important. There it is. Cheers.